Dear student, today I am going to start a new chapter, chapter 12, Light. Look at the picture shown above. We see not only the original monument itself but also its picture in the water. This picture in the water source, as we now know, is due to the phenomenon known as reflection of light. You can see in this picture. We have already learnt in class 6 that a plane mirror can change the direction of light falling on it. Such a change of direction by a mirror is due to the reflection of light by the mirror. Reflection of light from plane shiny or polished surfaces, mirrors, stainless steel, a spoon, plate is known as regular or plane reflection. This is because light is reflected from these surfaces in a well-defined, orderly manner, and this often results in a glare. Reflection of light from non-shiny, non-polished or irregular surfaces often takes place in an irregular, diffused manner. This is known as diffused reflection. Can you now guess about the type of reflection which helps us in seeing different objects around us? Let us just perform an activity to recall the characteristics of the image of object formed by a plane mirror. Just go through this activity to study the characteristics of an image formed by a plane mirror. Fix a graph paper on the drawing board or a thick cardboard piece. Draw a thick line in the middle of the graph paper. Hold the plane mirror strapped vertically on this line using a wooden groove or some molding clay. First, place one small object, for example a pencil, an eraser, a crayon, a figure from your toy game at the end of one of the squares of graph on the line that is perpendicular to the mirror. Note the width of the object size by counting the number of squares on the graph paper. Now look at the image formed in the plane mirror. Note down the position and size of this image. Move the object on the perpendicular line, first closer and then farther away from the mirror. What do we observe? The image is always of the same size as that of the object and as far behind the mirror as the object is in the front of it. Second, place a vertical screen, cardboard piece, thick sheet of paper behind or in front of the mirror. Let us try to obtain the image of a given object on the screen. What do we observe now? We find that image of an object formed by a plane mirror cannot be obtained on the screen. This image is therefore a virtual image. Cover an eraser with a sheet of paper and draw a figure, cartoon on one side of the eraser. Place the side of eraser having this figure in front of the mirror. What do we observe now? Move the figure to different positions in front of the mirror. Is the image of figure upright or upside down? Is the right side of figure towards the right side in the image? We find that image does not appear upside down and is always upright, erect. The image also shown an interesting property. The right side of the object appears as left in the image. Similarly, the left side of the object appears as the right side of the image. We call this phenomenon as lateral inversion. So just note the above activity can also be performed using a chessboard in place of a graph paper. Next, laws of reflection. It has been observed that the reflection of light from a surface always takes place in a well-defined manner in accordance with two simple rules or laws. We call these two rules or laws as the two laws of reflection. We must, however, first know some terms to understand and explain the two laws of reflection. So here are given some important terms. You should know about these terms so that you can understand very well. First, the point of incidence and the normal. The point of incidence is that point on the surface of the mirror where the incident ray falls. A line perpendicular to the surface at the point of incidence is known as normal at the point of incidence. Second, the incident ray and the reflected ray. The ray of light coming towards the mirror is called the incident ray. Similarly, the ray of light which turns back after reflection from the mirror surface is called reflected ray. You can see in this figure just about the incident ray which is falling on the surface of the mirror and the reflected ray which just coming back from the mirror after reflection. Next, angle of incidence and angle of reflection. The angle between the incident ray and the normal at the point of incidence is known as the angle of incidence. Similarly, the angle between the normal and the reflected ray at the point of incidence is called the angle of reflection. The plane of incidence and the plane of reflection. We know that we can use two points to define a line and two lines to define a plane. The plane defined by the incident ray and the normal at the point of incidence is called the plane of incidence. Similarly, the plane defined by the reflected ray and the normal at the point of incidence is called the plane of reflection. You can see in this activity to study the relationship between the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection. For this, take a drawing board and keep the plane mirror vertically upright on it. Near its center, hold one cylindrical tube cardboard with a narrow opening at its front in an inclined position with its front end almost touching the mirror. Direct a powerful torch light into the tube. Ask your friend to hold a second similar cylindrical tube cardboard at a matching angle. Now you move your tube so that it makes different angles with the plane mirror. What is your observation? What does your friend do to get the reflected light to come out from the end of the second tube? You will see a circle of reflected light at the end of second tube, provided the second tube is oriented at the correct angle. Angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection. The light will be reflected from the mirror and will move down through the second tube to its end. Whenever the angle of reflection equals the angle of incidence. However, when a ray of light falls normally on a mirror, it gets reflected in such a way that it retraces its path in the opposite direction. You can also perform this activity using a laser pointer. However, do seek the guidance of your parents while using this setup. Appropriate precautions are a must in this case. We can now put together the two laws of reflection which govern the formation of an image by a mirror. The two laws of reflection are as follows. First law, the incident ray, the normal at the point of incidence, and the reflected ray all lie in the same plane. Second law, the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection are equal to each other. So, we use these laws to understand reflection in all cases and situations. In next class, I will discuss about the image formation. So, just go through this chapter carefully so you can understand the topic very well. Thank you.